Good evening, JCs, distinguished guests, and dear participants. Just 2 days ago, India came together to celebrate its Independence Day, a moment that reminds us not only of our freedom, but also of the incredible diversity, resilience, and unity that define our nation. It is therefore fitting that tonight our journey through India Incredible, the story of real India, takes us to a land that holds a very special place in India's story, Jammu and Kashmir. Welcome to another inspiring edition of India Incredible, the story of real India. Every region of India adds a unique chapter to our national story. Some speak through history, some through culture, some through nature, and some through the courage and resilience of their people. Tonight, on the proud occasion of Independence Day, our journey takes us to Jammu and Kashmir, a land often described as paradise on earth, but one whose story goes far beyond its breathtaking landscapes. From the majestic Himalayas and serene Dal Lake to the sacred Vaishno Devi and Amarnath, Jammu and Kashmir reflects India's extraordinary diversity. Its ancient heritage, vibrant traditions, exquisite handicrafts, distinctive cuisine, and warm hospitality tell stories of faith, resilience, and an enduring spirit. As we celebrate, as we celebrate the freedom and unity of India, Jammu and Kashmir reminds us of something deeper, that the strength of our nation lies in its diversity, its people, and the countless stories that come together to form one India. So on this Independence Day, let us journey into a land of beauty, heritage, courage, and hope. Let us begin our journey through Jammu and Kashmir, one soul, endless depth. Jammu and Kashmir represents one of India's most treasured regions, where nature, spirituality, culture, and patriotism come together. Jammu and Kashmir represents the majestic Himalayan landscape with snow covered mountains, valleys, glaciers, and pristine lakes. Spiritual significance through revered pilgrimage centers such as Vaishno Devi, Amarnath, Shankaracharya Temple, and Hazrat Bal Shrine. Rich cultural heritage reflected in Kashmiri handicrafts, pashmina, tapir mach art, walnut wood carving, traditional music, and vibrant festivals. Natural beauty through iconic destinations like Srinagar, Gulmarg, Pahalgam, Sonamarg, and the world famous Dal Lake. Adventure and tourism with skiing, trekking, river rafting, mountain climbing, and nature exploration. A resilient people whose warmth, hospitality, and hope continue to inspire generations. Jammu and Kashmir teaches us that true strength is found in preserving peace, embracing diversity, and finding hope even in challenging times. Its message is simple: unity grows stronger when hearts remain connected beyond geography. Every memorable journey deserves an inspiring guide. Tonight, we are honored to welcome a distinguished leadership trainer, author, public speaker, happiness coach, and passionate advocate for youth empowerment. She is the founder and CEO of I Am the Best Leadership Academy, a nationally recognized trainer who has dedicated her life to developing confident, compassionate, and future ready leaders. With decades of experience as a leadership trainer, motivational speaker, anchor, author, and communication expert, she has trained thousands of students, professionals, educators, and emerging leaders across India and beyond. She is a certified NLP trainer, an accomplished happiness coach, an award winning author, filmmaker, and one of India's most respected voices in leadership and personal development. Her inspiring journey has earned her prestigious recognitions, including the Youth Icon of India, Nari Shakti Award, Iconic Woman, and several national honors for leadership and social impact. Through her inspiring initiative, I Am the Best, she continues to mentor young people to become fearless, compassionate, and responsible global citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in extending a warm JCI welcome to tonight's distinguished trainer, founder and CEO, I Am the Best Leadership Academy, leadership trainer, happiness coach, author, public speaker, JC Tinat Atifa Masood. JC Tinat ji, on behalf of JCI Triprayar, it is our privilege to invite you to lead today's session on Jammu and Kashmir, One Soul, Endless Depth. We eagerly look forward to discovering the breathtaking beauty, rich culture, resilient spirit, and timeless heritage of one of India's most remarkable regions through your presentation. Ma'am, the platform is yours.
So let me tell you a bit about Jammu and Kashmir, because as I went through, and I'd like to thank Shitesh ji for giving me this opportunity for presenting on Jammu and Kashmir, because every time I come and do these beautiful presentations, it is always wonderful that I'm able to do a lot of research. And like one of our friends here was saying, Dr. Krishna, I think, she's saying that she's very curious. I also became very curious to know more about this beautiful land. And Shitesh had already set the tone of this entire meeting by saying how wonderful this entire Jammu and Kashmir is. He has already set the entire place. So as you can see, right on top of there in the north of our map, we have Jammu and Kashmir. And I, of course, let me give you a disclaimer. I have not visited this place, and once I was making this, I was doing a research on this particular place. I have this deep desire now to go to this place because it's one of the most pristine, beautiful place on earth, I think, right now. And we should be proud that we have this particular place in our map, right there in our map, and we still haven't been there. If I would like to give you a close up of this place, there you can see Jammu and Kashmir, it's a union territory. Oh, finally, my electricity is back. I'm happy now that my electricity is back. I can give my thing in peace. So you can see that Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh, these were all together, but Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh have now been separated. Jammu and Kashmir is a union territory, and Ladakh are separate. And this had happened in 2019. And if you want to know what are the other places which neighbor Jammu and Kashmir, you can see that on the west is Pakistan, and just below that we have Punjab and Himachal Pradesh, and you have Ladakh also. So these are some of the places, and if you want to say, so that question might be there, that on the map you have China on top. So is China also, does it have a border with Jammu and Kashmir? Does it have a border with China? No, it does not. This confusion actually comes from the major political organization that took place in October 2019. And before the split, the entire erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir did share a border with China, but now it does not. And in 2019, the entire eastern section of the old state, that is the Ladakh Union Territory, including the line of actual control that we call the LAC and the disputed Aksai Chin Range, region became the separate union territory of Ladakh. And Ladakh is now the only territory in this immediate northern region that directly borders China. So, no, we don't have Jammu and Kashmir, which has a border with China. And because now Ladakh sits as a geographic buffer between Jammu and Kashmir and the eastern frontier, Jammu and Kashmir is now completely cut off from sharing a physical border with China. So when you look at Jammu and Kashmir or Srinagar, the Dal Lake, this is a kind of picture that stunning pictures that we get to see on the net. And when you look at this picture, you would say, oh goodness, of course, like someone said, that paradise is here. It has to be here. And if we still haven't visited paradise, then I think it's time that we did. I haven't visited. When I was doing a research, Shitejji, on Jammu and Kashmir, I was asking my husband while I was making this PPT, I mean that, do we ever have the chance, will we ever have the chance of visiting this beautiful paradise on earth? And he said, yes, why not? He didn't seem very upbeat about it, but then I hope that someday my son, my husband and I, we can make it, and I hope most of you can make it to this beautiful place also. So I found some of these stunning pictures, and I've brought you some of these pictures from Dal Lake, and I just love the fact that, look at the colors, look at the picturesque thing. You could just sit there, do a painting. If some of you are painters and artists, you could write, you could do some paintings. If you're a poet, you could sit in one of these shikaras and you could go across in one of the across the Dal Lake, and you could write poetry as well. Or if you're a good singer, you could compose some songs, or you could just sing some song out there, which from some of our Hindi movies in the past. So again, this is another top view of Dal Lake, where you have these shikaras. These beautiful shikaras again are made of a different kind of a wood. I will tell you in due course of time. So now let me tell you about the historical loophole, the land laws, and the Kenneth Sahib that they are talking about. So the entire reason why you have houseboats, you will see that if you want to go and stay in a houseboat, you can actually go. The first picture that I showed you is actually of a houseboat. This is the houseboat that you can stay in. These houseboats actually came into existence in Srinagar because of a very clever workaround to local laws. During the British colonial rule, the Dogra Maharajas prohibited all the foreigners and British officials from buying or owning land in the Kashmir Valley. So, what the British people did, they were very desperate to escape from the scorching heat of the Indian plains. What they did is, if you cannot buy the land, live on the water. So they took the traditional Kashmiri cargo boat called a dunga. So it is the traditional boat is called a dunga, and redesigned it into one of these luxurious English style floating mansions. And early on, locals did not even call them houseboats. They called them the boat of Kenneth Sahib. So Kenneth Sahib was the one who came up with this idea that since they could not buy any land in Kashmir, they built these beautiful, exotic, royal houseboats. They didn't call them houseboats. The locals called them Kenneth Sahib ki boat, the boat of Kenneth Sahib. So these were the kind of boats, and these are immobile, so they just stay there. So the shikaras will take you to these houseboats, and they are completely stationary. Unlike the houseboats in Kerala or Europe that cruise around, Kashmiri houseboats are completely immobile. They are permanently moored at the edge of Dal Lake and Deegan Lake and plugged into local electricity and plumbing grids. So if you go there, probably you're going to get some of the best, beautiful interiors, because there, I'm not showing you a picture of the interiors. Why? Because I also haven't put it up there because I want to go and explore it myself. If I have to go and see that place, that if I show you everything, then probably you will not have that curiosity. So I kept some of the pictures away so that you could actually see this beautiful boat and you can think of going. And these particular boats, these houseboats, are built using massive logs of deodar. These are Himalayan cedar wood. Deodar contains natural oils that resist rotting, allowing the underwater hulls to survive for decades without decomposing. So they are literally, yes, they are. They don't decompose. These boats are exclusively made so that they don't rot. And this cedar wood does not rot actually. So you can think of other things also that you could probably collect cedar wood. I mean, I'm an artist, so I was thinking of how I could use cedar wood in my artwork. And if you step into one of these boats, what you will see is it feels like a Victorian palace blended with a Mughal court. The ceilings feature Khatamband, a painstaking art from where thousands of tiny wooden geometrical pieces are fitted together like a jigsaw puzzle without using a single nail. So you can understand how beautiful it is. And living on a houseboat, what you will get is you will create a very unique, it creates a very unique social dynamic, because your windows will sit right at the water level. So when you are going into a houseboat like this, it will be at the water level. An entire economy paddles directly to you via these smaller shikara boats. So without leaving your living room, you can buy freshly cut lotus flowers, handmade shawls, freshly baked Kashmiri bread, and even ice cream from floating vendors. Imagine how beautiful it must be that all these shikaras actually come to you, all the vendors come to you, and you can pick up whatever you want. And when we talk about these houseboats, they are a powerful way. They are very, very powerful. Actually, spend your entire holidays out there. However, because of these strict environmental laws aimed at preserving the health of Dal Lake, new houseboat construction has been heavily restricted since 1978. So now, because it takes years of grueling training to master Navchan carpentry, this particular art that you see on this houseboat is called Navchan carpentry, and this craft is now slowly disappearing because they do not want to create an environmental process where they want to preserve the health of the Dal Lake, and so they are not making any more of this. And now, before you think that no, no, I don't want to go to Kashmir or Jammu and Kashmir. So just think that the number of iconic houseboats has dwindled from over 2,000 done down to roughly 750 today. My goodness, only 750 are left. So let us all, I think we should buck up and we should make some sort of a journey to Jammu and Kashmir. And these are living pieces of history operated on borrowed time. So we need to actually go to these places and see this craft. Like I told you, why the other wood is used is because it is water resistant, it is sturdy and long, it has a huge longevity, and it has buoyancy. It is relatively lightweight, giving the flat bottom shikaras excellent buoyancy and ease of paddling. Some of the other woods which are used in construction are chinar wood, Miranda wood, and these are also used for your shikara boats and these houseboats. Let's come. Here is another beautiful scene from the Dal Lake. You can see all these beautiful boats out there. Of going, all of us can think of going together for this holidays. In fact, now what we will explore together, you can see that we are going to be exploring the land and the story, the people, flavors of paradise, places that steal the heart, craft, gold and green, and then what business opportunities you can actually do out there. Let's start with the first section, where the Himalayas begin and history has been written for 5,000 years. So you can see I brought you these beautiful pictures because this truly looks like paradise on earth. This is Sonmarg Valley, the first picture that you see, and the second one is Gulmarg Wildlife Sanctuary. These are places, these are bird's eye views that I've got for you. You can literally go there and enjoy every bit of these places. Yes, I would just I wanted to talk to you about Sonmarg Valley. This is located in this particular place that I was telling you about, Sonmarg Valley. This is located in the Ganderbal district of Jammu and Kashmir. And the key features of this viewpoint that you see, where this picture has been taken from, the winding river, you can see that there's a river going by, the stream snaking through the center of the deep valley floor is the Sindh River. So, and it's a major tributary of the Jhelum River. And this location this specific elevated perspective is typically seen from vantage points along the Shangri-La Highway. So if you're on the Shangri-La, along the Srinagar-Leh Highway, I'm saying Shangri-La, Srinagar-Leh Highway. So this is National Highway 1. So if you're out there, you will get to see this view. You approach the overlook, as you approach or overlook the main alpine meadows of Sonmarg. Okay, so this Sonmarg. And the landscape mainly known poetically. This place, if you can see, why I got you these beautiful light from the sky. It is actually known as Meadow of Gold. The area is famous for its steep pine forested slopes, dramatic mountain passes like nearby Georgila, and misty cloud-kissed peaks that hem the river canyon. So if you're planning a trip, please make sure that you go. Now, this next one is Gulmarg Wildlife Sanctuary. You can think of going there. You can go to both these locations, but make sure that you take a proper guide when you go to these places. Next is, you can see this Kishtwar Shintan top route. This is another beautiful place. You can see, if you're a painter, you can paint those beautiful mountains that you can see in the distance, the clouds. I always wonder how artists get to paint these beautiful clouds like this. I've seen many artists doing the exact same kind of thing. So if you're an artist, you can sit somewhere on top and actually paint this out. So Kishtwar Shintan top route is a mountainous pass that connects the Anantnag district with the Kishtwar district. So Anantnag is in Kashmir Valley and Kishtwar is in Jammu region. So this is the place, this is the route which connects both these, the district, the Anantnag district and the Kishtwar district, both in different places, the Kashmir Valley and the Jammu region. And what are the key features of this particular landscape? The layered terraces. Please look closely. You will see a lot of layered terraces here. They have a lot of vegetation here. They do a lot of vegetable gardening here on these layered terraces. On the left side of the valley slope showcases traditional terrace farming patches and orchard steps carved into the hills. So they have, if you notice closely, that is one. And then the transit corridor, the winding narrow road visible deep in the gorge, runs parallel to an alpine stream. This route is part of the National Highway 244, a less commercialized, highly scenic highway alternative to the main Jammu Kashmir highway. So, if you are thinking of taking a more adventurous route, you can take the road which goes past this river. And the transition point, because this area connects as the physical boundary zone between South Kashmir and the Jammu division, the dense pine covered mountains begin opening up into agricultural slopes and unique geological valley folds. So I'm not bringing you the run of the mill kind of information. I'm bringing you mostly information which are very different from what you usually hear. So now, if you look into the history of Jammu and Kashmir, it has 5,000 years and 6 chapters. So if you go from the ancient era, Kashmir figures in the Nilmata Purana and Mahabharata. So Kashmir has been mentioned in the Nilmata Purana and Mahabharata. And Emperor Ashoka found Srinagar as a Buddhist center in 250 BCE. So you can understand how important this place is. It's all the more reason for us to go and visit it. So Ratha Rangini is, Kalhana writes, Asia's first known historical chronicle, the River of Kings, recording centuries of Kashmiri dynasties. And in the 13th and the 15th centuries, gradual Islamization came in, blended with existing Shaivite and Buddhist thought. So this particular place we are talking about, Jammu and Kashmir, is syncretic. It has the Hindu religion, the Muslims, the Buddhists, and the others. Maybe there are a few Christians also, but very few. But these people have lived together for a long time, birthing the syncretic spirit of Kashmiriyat. When we talk about Kashmiriyat, when we speak about Kashmiriyat, it means all these religions have lived together for centuries. Then the Mughal and the Dogra rule came in. Emperor Jahangir calls it Agar Firdaus Rahe Hai. So he was the one who said, if there is a paradise on earth, it is here, it is here, it is here. Emperor Jahangir said this. And the Dogra dynasty unifies Jammu, Kashmir, and the Ladakh. They had unified it in 1846. And what happened in 1947? Maharaja Hari Singh signed the instrument of accession to India amid the tribal invasion, and the last ruling Maharaja of Jammu and Kashmir. So he was the last ruling Maharaja. And in 2019, in our present time, when you and me, we all know about it, Article 370 was read down. Jammu and Kashmir is now organized into 2 union territories, Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. So it has become like that. So if we are going to go and visit, we have to go and see all these different places. So I had told you, the history of Jammu and Kashmir spans ancient Hindu and Buddhist roots, medieval Muslim sultanates, Mughal and Sikh rule, and the formation of the unified princely state in 1846. After acceding to India in 1947, the region experienced decades of geopolitical conflict and constitutional transition, culminating in its 2019 reorganization into a union territory. And I'm sure they must be profiting from this particular transition from a state to a union territory. And if we look at, like I had told you about early roots, Vedic texts and traditions, they have mentioned about this particular, about Jammu and Kashmir. Mauryan and Buddhist influence, we had that. Local dynasties, the Karkota, Utpala, and Lohra dynasties ruled in succession to the 7th to the 14th centuries. And then the Muslim rule came in, followed by peaks under rulers like Sultan Zainul Abdin, later succeeded by the Chak dynasty. Mughal and Afghan eras came in. So you can see there's a mixture of many different kind of dynasties who came in. They left their positive things in Jammu and Kashmir, and what we have now is something pristine. Then they had the Sikh and Dogra rule. Maharaja Ranjit Singh annexed Jammu and Kashmir in 1819, bringing it under Sikh governance. Then the Treaty of Amritsar happened. Following the first Anglo-Sikh War, the British transferred control of Kashmir to Dogra ruler Maharaja Gulab Singh, unifying Jammu, Kashmir, and Ladakh into a single princely state. Initially, it was a single princely state, Jammu, Kashmir, and Ladakh, but then now we know that they are 2 separate things. And then the Dogra dynasty again came in, continued under successive Maharajas until 1947, overseen by the last ruling monarch, Maharaja Hari Singh. We now come to the accession and modern era. In 1947 accession, like I told you, Maharaja Hari Singh signed the instrument of accession to India, sparking the first Indo-Pakistani war. And then the constitutional status, the region was granted special autonomous status under Article 370 of the Indian Constitution, but it has hence been removed, and reorganization happened in 2019, and the Indian government has revoked the Article 370, passed the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act, and now these are two separate union territories, Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. Now, lesser known facts. Some of the facts most visitors never hear about. Kashmir was once a lake. The entire Kashmir was once a lake. So, as per the Ratarangini, the valley was the bed of a vast lake called Satisar, drained through a gorge at Baramulla. A legend geology still seems to echo. Then the Srinagar's Buddhist founder, Ashoka, like we had spoken about, making he had this summer capital there in Srinagar, and he traditionally this is again credited to Emperor Ashoka around the 3rd century BCE, making it one of South Asia's oldest living cities. And it had a constitution of its own. Under Article 370, Jammu and Kashmir uniquely held its own constitution and flag, a special status unlike any other Indian state, but it ended by the 2019 reorganization. And the Ratarangini's legacy, I've already spoken about it. Again, more stories hidden in plain sight. Asia's largest tulip garden. I'm going to show you some of the pictures of Asia's largest tulip garden. Let me just quickly take you there. I'll come back to this thing again. If you go there, it is a breathtaking view. I was going through the pictures. I was wondering what picture to put up for you. Each picture is better than the other, more beautiful than the other, more exotic than the other. And if I may tell you a bit about the Indira Gandhi Memorial Tulip Garden in Srinagar, it is officially recognized as Asia's largest tulip paradise. Why shouldn't visit it once? Located at the foothills of the Zabarwan mountain range and directly overlooking Dal Lake. Look at the beauty. You'll get to see Dal Lake, and you will get to see this beautiful tulip garden as well. It spans roughly 30 hectares, and serves as the crown jewel of Kashmir's spring tourism. So if you want to go and see the spring flowers blooming, these tulips blooming, you have to go during next year. Because it is strictly seasonal flower show, garden is only open to the public for about 30 days. Beautiful tulip garden in Srinagar. You ever think of there? Then let us look at the next one. A library of 6,000 manuscripts. When I was reading about it, that the Raghunath Temple library in Jammu holds over 6,000 manuscripts across several Indian languages, I had the desire to go straight to this library and spend my time there. Because imagine if you are going to a place and to a temple where they have these 6,000 rare manuscripts. It will be a lifetime experience to go and see these things. And it's a scholar's treasure. So let me just quickly about this place. The library was established in the mid 19th century under the patronage of the Dogra rulers Maharaja Gulab Singh and his successor Maharaja Ranbir Singh. So Maharaja Ranbir Singh was a very deeply dedicated scholar who wanted to transform Jammu into a prominent center for classical learning. He hired elite scribes and scholars to systematically track down, buy, or safely duplicate rare manuscripts from across the Indian subcontinent, specifically targeting hidden archives in Varanasi, Bengal, and remote areas of the Kashmir Valley. So we have to give our deep gratitude and thank you to Maharaja Gulab Singh and his successor Maharaja Ranbir Singh, because they were the ones who actually got this entire collection in one place. And where is it? It is at the Raghunath Temple. I will quickly show you a beautiful picture of this, of the Raghunath Temple. This is the place, and it is exotic. It is wow. You can think of going to this place, to the Raghunath Temple in Jammu, where you also get to visit that beautiful library with 6,000 valuable manuscripts. What is the next border we have? We have Border Tourism Reimagined. Now, these are once frontier hamlets, Kiran and Titwal. And this is along the Kishanganga River. They have opened up new border tourism. We keep hearing about only a few of these, but again, these are lesser known stories, lesser known places that I'm talking about. Keran and Teethwal. This is along the Kishan Ganga River. I will show you a picture. Look at this exotic place. This is the place that we are talking about, that Kiran and Teethwal. So if you think of visiting this, you can just sit there, breathe in all the oxygen. Look at this place. I feel that the AQI level is superb out here. This place looks so heavenly. So if when we talk about this place, let me quickly tell you about this place. The Gurez, sorry, yes. So you can think of going to this particular place. Um, the Gurez and the Bangas valleys. Yes, the Gurez and the Bangas valleys that we are talking about. It's known as Gurez Valley is known as the land of the China Dards, situated roughly 123 kilometers north of Srinagar in the Bandipora district, Gurez Valley. So the places that we're talking about, the hamlets, the little villages Keran and Teethwal along the Krishna Ganga River have opened us new border destinations alongside the untouched Gurez and Bangas valleys. So don't forget to visit these two valleys, Gurez and Bangas, because these two are very, very attractive. So let me tell you a little bit about the Gurez Valley. It sits at an altitude of 2,400 meters, and it is highly celebrated for its distinct cultural identity and jaw dropping mountain backdrops. You need to take pictures in mountain backdrops, or you need to breathe in the oxygen. Just sit there, relax, close your eyes, meditate, whatever you want to do. You can absolutely go to this place. And some of the top attractions here are the Habba Khatun Peak, the Kishan Ganga River, and the Khandial Top. And all these are all there when you take one trip to this untouched Gurez and Bangas valleys. Let me also talk to you about the Bangas Valley. It's the untouched meadow, and it's located in the Kupwara district. I think we've all heard about the Kupwara district. It spans about 300 square kilometers of hidden high altitude wilderness, and it is widely split into two distinct areas. Bodh Bangas means big Bangas, and Lokat Bangas means small Bangas. And it is known as mini Switzerland. So if you still haven't been to Switzerland, let us look at the mini Switzerland here itself in Jammu and Kashmir, or the hidden meadow of Kashmir. It consists of sprawling green grass plains, dense coniferous forests, and wandering streams grazed by livestock belonging to nomadic Gujjar. We have heard about the Gujjar and Bakarwal communities, the herders. So they you will get to see those people as well. And what is the current status and accessibility? Bus had limited infrastructure historically and was prone to security related closures. While the government has significantly built out motorable road links from Handwara and Kupwara to make it an active day trip destination, overnight facilities remain almost not non-existent. So don't think of staying overnight. You have to make a day trip. And the accommodation, there are no permanent hotels or guest houses inside the valley floor. Travelers must either visit as a day trip or execute completely self sufficient while camping by bringing their own tents, sleeping gear, and food supplies. And you have to, for permit rules for domestic Indian tourists, a standard government photo ID card is checked at base points. However, specialized multi day trekking or camping itineraries frequently require permissions from the local forest department. So, like I had shown you this picture, this is if you are going to any of these places, you have to make a day trip. You cannot stay overnight, or if you want to do a camping, you can surely go for your camping trips, but please go with a proper guide. Now let's come to world's finest saffron soil. And I would like to tell you that the Karewa soil of Pampore is one of the only places on earth suited for Kashmiri saffron. I think most of us have taken, and it must be so expensive, a crop that thrives in almost no other Indian soil. So the Karewa, this is what you need to know about it. And the world's, I will show you the picture of what I had got online about this particular Karewa soil. And the world's finest saffron grows in this unique Karewa soil. This highly specialized soil type is found on elevated plateaus, primarily in Pampore and Kashmir, popularly known as India's saffron town. So if you want to go and visit this place, look at the way they have done they have done this cultivation of saffron. You can just go take a look, maybe touch the soil, and you can understand that they do the cultivation in this particular soil, which is found only in Pampore in Kashmir. So let's go to the next slide, and this is about the soul of Kashmir. So when we talk about Kashmiriyat, or talk about the syncretic kind of the culture that they have in Jammu and Kashmir, we need to talk about Hinduism, Islam, Buddhism, and Sikhism. And they all stay together, they share that land together. And this is one place where unity in diversity can be seen at its best. So when we look at the Hazrat Bal Shrine, you can see this again overlooks Dal Lake. So if you're making a trip to the Dal Lake, you get to see a lot of things. If you remember, I was also talking about the Tulip Garden. You get to see that. You get to see the Hazrat Bal Shrine, and it is sacred to the Muslims of all sects, but they welcome every visitor. Then you have, let me just quickly show you a picture. This is the picture of the Hazrat Bal Shrine. If you're going to go and visit it, it is a lovely, lovely place. Let me also tell you that it is officially named Dargah Sharif Hazrat Bal, and it is the holiest and most deeply revered Muslim shrine in Jammu and Kashmir. And it is located on the western banks of Dal Lake in Srinagar. It is famously known for housing the Muqaddas, a sacred relic believed to be a hair strand from the beard of Prophet Muhammad. So Prophet Muhammad is the prophet of the Muslims, and there is a single hair strand in this particular shrine. So maybe you can think of visiting and feel good about it. And what is the architecture and layout? Let me tell you, the unique dome design that you see, it is unlike traditional Kashmiri shrines that feature wooden square shapes and pagoda style tiered roofs. Hazrat Bal stands out as the only domed mosque in Srinagar. Other, you will get to see most of the structures, as I have studied, they have wooden structures, but here this particular shrine is done in a different way. It is done in white marble. The modern structure is built completely out of immaculate white marble, heavily inspired by classical Mughal architecture, complete with an elegant towering minaret. You can see the minaret there on the side. And the scenic esplanade, the shrine features sweeping manicured gardens, open air marble courtyards that slope directly down into the calm waters of Dal Lake, offering stunning views of the surrounding Zabarwan Mountains. So you get to see mountains, you get to see tulip gardens, you get to see this shrine. So now, the if we can speak about a little bit about the history of the sacred relic. The relic was originally brought from Medina to Hyderabad by a descendant of the Prophet. It was eventually purchased by a wealthy Kashmiri trader named Khwaja Nuruddin Ishbari in the late 17th century. So that particular strand of hair was actually bought from Medina to Hyderabad. Then it came to Kashmir as it was bought by a particular person. Now, let us go to the next picture. And this picture is the Khanka-e-Maula, also known as Shahi Hamdan Shrine. It's one of the oldest, most architecturally unique and historically significant Islamic structures in Kashmir. And it is located in the heart of old Srinagar city on the banks of the Jhelum River. It is a wooden masterpiece built without a single metallic nail. This particular shrine has no nails in it, but it has been, and then again, we are all amazed. Modern day humans, we are amazed at how do they do these kind of things. It leaves us wondering, what will we as individuals or as humans of the 21st century, what will we leave behind that history is going to celebrate us? But we have to work on our own selves. I think every time I say this story, that I actually think of myself, what am I going to leave behind for humanity to celebrate? So this shrine is dedicated to Mir Sayyid Ali Hamadani, a 14th century Persian Sufi saint from Iran. So the sacred saint was actually, he was celebrated, and his shrine, this shrine is dedicated to him. And he visited Kashmir 3 times and played as a foundational role in spreading Islam across the region. Now, let us look at something we had spoken about Khanka-e-Maula and Sharari Sharif, and let us look at something which I would like to tell you about. The Sharari Sharif, I have told you about it. No, I haven't told you about it. This is the Sharari Sharif. And it's arguably the most sacrosanct and ancient Sufi Muslim shrine in the Kashmir Valley. And it is located in the Budgam district, approximately 28 kilometers southwest of Srinagar. And the 600-year-old site serves as the ultimate resting place of Sheikh Nuruddin Nurani, deeply revered across the communities, and as Nand Rishi or Alamdar-e Kashmir. He is also known as Nand Rishi. The Sheikh Nuruddin Nurani was also known as Nand Rishi. And this site is widely celebrated as the primary symbol of Kashmiriyat, the region's historic syncretic heritage of tolerance, interfaith coexistence, and communal harmony. So this is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Now let us also tell you about Raghunath and Vaishno Devi. The Raghunath temple, I have already shown you a picture, but again I will show you, because this is a majestic temple that we definitely need to visit when we go to Jammu and Kashmir. And of course, Vaishno Devi. Who doesn't know Vaishno Devi? I remember once I had a lady visiting me from Vaishno Devi, and she gave me a lot of advice, and I followed her. And she was that very, very powerful lady uh, who came to Guwahati, and she told me a couple of things, that I was supposed to go to the Kamakhya temple every Tuesday in the morning after taking a bath at 6:30, and I was very, very obediently, I listened to her. And when she came back, she visited the Kamakhya temple, and she told my friend, who did not listen to her when she had advised the same thing for her. She said that, look, your friend was very, I never went back and told her anything about it. She had that power to know about everybody. And she said that your friend had actually come to the temple every day at 6:30 in the morning, and she had done what I had told her to do. She had done her puja, she had done everything. How come you did not come? And she came back, and she called me. She said, did you actually go to the Kamakhya temple? And I said, yes, I did. Ma told me to do it, and I have done it. So there is Vaishno Devi for you. If you think that there is a bigger calling for you, then this is a beautiful place to go to. The temple where you will have to take a long, long journey into it. So why have I got you these two pictures? It is because I want to tell you that this place that we call Jammu and Kashmir, they have shared festivals. We had spoken about Kashmiriyat. The Kashmiri Pandits and Muslims have long exchanged greetings at Navre and Eid alike. So, this is a picture of where they have celebrated Navre and Eid together. So, the Kashmiri Hindus celebrate Navre. They represent the two, and Eid, both of them. You can see I put in pictures of both, because I love the fact that these two communities have lived together for centuries, represent the two most culturally significant joyous New Year and festive milestones celebrated across Jammu and Kashmir. Navre is rooted in the Kashmiri Pandit lunar tradition, and Eid belongs to Islamic faith. Both festivals showcase the deep seated spirit of Kashmiriyat, the region's historic cultural ethos, where different communities closely share, visit, and celebrate each other's festive seasons. And the Kashmiri Pandit, of course, Navre, the Kashmiri Pandit New Year, is a celebration of the Kashmiri Lunar New Year's Day. And the word itself is derived from the Sanskrit word Nava Varsha, meaning New Year. Navre. See, Nava Varsha. So it falls on the first day of the bright half of the month of Chaitra, typically March or April. And Eid, of course, we all know when it is celebrated. Eid again is celebrated on two of the occasions, the Bakrid and the Eid ul Fitr and the Eid ul Juha. Now, let us come to the people. Many tongues, one warmth, and the human tapestry of Jammu and Kashmir. So, Kashmir, if we are talking the um, about Kashmiri Koshur. So, what is Kashmiri Koshur? It's dominant in the Kashmir Valley, one of India's oldest living Dardic languages with its own rich poetic tradition. So I have not been able to bring you somebody who's speaking in that, but Kashmiri itself, the language itself is called Koshur, and it is dominant in the Kashmiri Valley. Then the other languages, native tongue of the Jammu region, a recognized 8th scheduled language of India with roots in Sanskrit, that is Dogri. Then they have Gojri and Pahari, the spoken by the Gujar Bakarwal pastoral communities and hill population. So you can see there are many different languages, and then they have Urdu, the official administrative language, uniting government, education, and everyone. So if you know your Hindi or you know a bit of Urdu, you can definitely go and speak in that language, and I'm sure they will be able to understand. Even a person who is speaking Kashmiri to you, if you're speaking in Hindi, they will probably be able to understand. And look at the last line I've written here. The Gujar and Bakarwal communities still practice seasonal transhumance, that is, migrating herds between Jammu's plains and Kashmir's high meadows every summer. So they are like they move around. So Gujar and Bakarwal communities, they move around. They don't have a particular place where they stay. So let us come to festivals, crafts, and everyday poetry. Kshitij ji, when he was talking about Kashmir, he was talking about papier mâché. So I have already told you about Navred and Eid side by side. This is how it is celebrated. The Kashmiri Pandits and the Kashmiri Muslims, they celebrate together. They greet each other. They have been friends forever. There are stories which tell us otherwise, but let us not believe these stories that they are actually at war with each other. I'm sure they don't. I have many friends who I know, they have been staying together and they've been staying very happily together. Now, the art of papier mâché, I would like to tell you that, one second. The art of papier mâché, I'll show you the picture. This is introduced by the Persian craftsmen centuries ago. And this very intricate hand painted lacquer art, I'm also doing it right now. I'm learning how to do papier mâché. I make a lot of products with papier mâché. I have a lot of products. In fact, let me share with you that I have a stand lamp which was brought by my mother even before I was born, because that time they had gone to Kashmir, I think during their honeymoon, and she brought back a lamp which I still have it in my drawing room now. And that is still intact. The shine is still there, and it is perfect till now. I don't know how they make this. This is the Persian craft work that Kashmiris do a lot, and you can see beautiful containers, beautiful boxes. I have lots of them, and I love these. And personally, I am learning papier mâché myself, as since I'm an artist. I am learning it, and probably someday I can share, if Shiteshji allows, I can share my artwork someday with all of you. Then you have Sufi music and poetry. When you go there, the verses of poetess mystic Lal Ded and Sufi saint Nand Rishi are still sung and quoted in everyday Kashmiri conversation. So if you are going to a place where there are poets and there are writers, and you will probably get to hear them quoting from some Sufi saint or some Sufi poetry, some Sufi music. And Sufi music is anyway very, very soothing. And then the houseboat tradition. So these are the living traditions they have from the British era. These some of these. Now let's go to section 3 and the flavors of paradise. So let's get down to food, because that, I think, is the most beautiful thing that we can talk about. Let us go to the food here. This is Wazwan. And what is Wazwan? Let me tell you about Wazwan. So these are actually what is Wazwan. This is a meal that is a ceremony. Wazwan, it traces to the 14th century when Persian Sufi saint Mir Sayyid Ali Hamadani brought skilled cooks and artisans to Kashmir. So Waz is chef and Wan means shop or feast, combined to describe an art form, not just a meal. So they have up to 36 courses cooked overnight by a chef called the Vastawaza. So you can see the signature courses on your right in marked in blue. Tabak Maz means fried lamb ribs, Rista meatballs in red gravy, Rogan Josh, Gustava, Yakhni, Zafran Kokar, that is saffron chicken, Firni, saffron milk pudding. So they use a lot of saffron in their food. And all this, again, like I showed you this picture of all these 36 dishes which are cooked overnight, they are served on shared copper trine platter. one for every 4 guests. So 4 people can sit together and they will have from one copper trine platter. Rice is the base, and Kashmiri red chilies in mawal, that is coxcomb flour, lend the signature deep red color. And begins with Tashir e Nair, a ritual hand washing with jug and basin. This is a ritual that is carried on in our state as well. Whenever we call people to eat, then we have something called a dastarkhan, where they put up a cloth. People sit on the other side of that cloth. Food is served on that cloth, and while we're sitting on the floor, then there will be somebody with a basin and a jug to make the guests wash their hands. So we have this ritual as well. So let us look at some of the everyday Kashmiri table. You have noon chai. Noon chai sounds very, very good. I will show you a picture of noon chai. This is what noon chai looks like. And look at the color of the tea. It is beautiful. A salted pink tea churned with baking soda, milk, and crushed nuts. And the daily ritual that opens every Kashmiri morning. So if you're going there, they will probably treat you to a noon chai early in the morning. And if you're going to stay in one of those beautiful houses, the boat house, well, you will be treated royally. Then you have Nadru and Haq. I will show you what Nadru and Haq is. This is Nadru and Haq. So I was very surprised that Nadru and Haq is lotus stem and collard greens are prized vegetarian staples of the Kashmiri Pandit kitchen, sold fresh at Dal Lake's floating markets. So if you're staying at one of those houses, the boat houses, these shikaras will come up and they will serve you with nadru and haq, or maybe the boat house is going to serve you. But I am very surprised that in Ohomia, in my mother tongue, which we speak as Assamese, we call the greens as haq. And my husband and I, we were very surprised that the collard greens are also called haq in Kashmir. Very, very, very wonderful kind of a common thing that we have. We call haq the greens that we eat. We call haq. They also call them haq. So nadru and green. And then you have kondur breads. Over a dozen local breads, from crisp bottomed shokvor to saffron scented shirmal, soft, sold fresh daily from a neighborhood baker, and the baker is called kandur. So what is kandur breads? This is the kandur bread. So you will get these soft, the ones at the bottom are soft, these ones, the ones on top are crisper. You will get these from the local baker. And then you have the famous kawa, the kawa tea of Kashmir, a green tea brewed with saffron, cinnamon, cardamom, and almonds. This is a Kashmiri's answer to a warm winter welcome. But if you want to have it chilled, I have got you a recipe for that. Chilled ice kawa is refreshing aromatic twist on the traditional hot Kashmiri kawa. If you want to have it chilled right now, we have summer happening. So what will you do? You can take a screenshot of this. What are the ingredients? It serves 2 to 3. So if you're going to start with this, water, you can have Kashmiri green tea leaves. I think you'll get it in your local store. So 1 tablespoon of that, green cardamom, 3 to 4 pods, lightly crushed cinnamon stick, dalchini, one small piece, cloves, two saffron threads. If you have it in your, I'm sure we all have a bit of that, 10 to 12 strands, honey or sugar, sliced, slivered almonds, and crushed ice. What you do is you brew it like this. Take a screenshot of this. Brew the spice base, steep the tea, turn off the heat entirely. You need to simmer it for 6 to 8 minutes. Turn the heat to low. So don't put it on very high heat. Turn to low and then steep it for 6 to 8 minutes so the spices release their essential oils and the water absorbs the vibrant golden hue of the saffron. Then steep the tea. Pro tip: do not oversteep green tea in hot water or the ice kawa will turn bitter. This is a tip that I have brought for you. Sweeten and strain. Stir in the honey or sugar while the liquid is still warm until fully dissolved. Strain the tea through a fine mesh. Chill it. Allow the strained kawa to cool down to room temperature. Transfer the pitcher to the refrigerator for at least 1 to 2 hours until thoroughly chilled. And then you can bring out your glasses, will give it some crushed ice and pour your kawa and enjoy. And see, at the end, number 3 is top each glass with a sprinkling of slivered almonds and a few fresh saffron strands for garnish. This is how you can have your kawa chilled. So if you don't want to have it hot, you can have it chilled. So now we come to section 4, places that steal the heart. I will quickly take you through the places. Srinagar and Dal Lake, we have already spoken about it, but I will still love to tell you more about this place, about Srinagar. So, Srinagar is the stunning summer capital of the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Like the British people, also, they wanted to have their summer stationed out there. They wanted to beat the heat from the rest of India. They went and stayed in the Dal Lake with those how in the houseboats, the shikaras, the Mughal gardens, and all these. Then they also went to home to the world's highest. Wait, let me show you Srinagar and Dal Lake. I have brought you pictures. These are some of the exquisite pictures. You will be. Uh, I mean, if your family, somebody in your family does not like to take pictures, you will go crazy because you cannot stop yourself from taking these colorful pictures. Srinagar is this place where you get to see these lovely, colorful shikaras. And like I told you, these are made of cedar wood. And in Gulmarg, now, where is Gulmarg? Gulmarg is the again, let me tell you a little bit about this place. You in Srinagar, you get a lot of exquisite hand woven shawls spun from ultra fine Kashmir wool. That is the pashmina shawls. So your pashmina shawls are the rarest of the kind of shawls, and these shawls are so soft. I have one of them. Thankfully, I have one of them. Somebody gifted that to me. And of course, if you want to go to Gulmarg, Gulmarg is literally translated as the meadow of flowers and is a world-renowned hill station and premier ski resort located in the Baramulla district of Jammu and Kashmir. But of course, you will have to go. When is the time you have to go? You have to winter. It's a winter sports capital, so between January and March you need to visit this place. Gulmarg transforms into a total global hotspot for backcountry skiing, snowboarding, and heli skiing. It boasts exceptionally deep dry powder snow that draws professional winter athletes from all over the world. So you can go during this time, January to March. So this is a place out here, and it also has Gulmarg also hosts one of the highest 18-hole green golf courses in the world. It has, and it's at 2,650 meters of height. Then Gulmarg also has the Strawberry Valley and Killenmarg, sprawling alpine meadows that fill with. How much will I keep saying about it? You will probably be saying, my gosh, we've got so much of information about this place which we did not have. In fact, I did not. Then you have the St. Mary's Church, a beautiful 120-year-old Victorian era stone church featuring a distinct green wooden roof. These are all in Gulmarg. What are the other places? Pahalgam and Betab. I think we all know about Pahalgam Valley, what had happened a couple of years back, and we are very sad about it. But let me show you a picture of Pahalgam and how beautifully exotic it is. This is a scenic hill station and premier health resort located in the Anantnag district of Jammu and Kashmir. And it is situated at an altitude of 2,740 meters at the confluence of the Lidar River and Sheshnag lake streams. It sits roughly 90 kilometers east of Srinagar. And you can think of going here. This is the Pahalgam and the Betab. So Betab, I think the movie actually was shot in this place. So that is why it is called the Betab Valley. And Vaishno Devi Katra. So I have already shown you pictures of the one of the Hindu community's holiest shrines, drawing over 69 lakh pilgrims in 2025 alone to the Trikuta Hills. So you can understand how important this place is. That's the picture I got you because I had already got you a picture of Vaishno Devi, but I love this picture where the clouds have come right down into the hills of Vaishno Devi. The clouds are there, hanging out there. You just need to be awestruck. You will be awestruck and wowed by these kind of shots in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, hidden, I had already told you about the Gurez Valley. These are the hidden gems beyond the postcards. The Bangas Valley, I've told you. Now, Dudh Patri is also a beautiful place. It's a valley of milk, rolling meadows near Budgam. Dear, drew over 1.2 lakh visitors in 2025 and counting. Let me show you the picture of Dudh Patri. Why is it called Dudh Patri? Because it has all these beautiful waters which look as if it is milk. That is why it is called Patri. But I will give you some more information on Dudh Patri. You can go to this place, but you need to actually take a proper guide when you're going to these particular places. Then Keran and Tetwal, I have shown you about these twin border villages on the Neelam and Kishanganga River, newly opened as border tourism destinations, offering a rare view across the LOC. So you get to see that. Now let us look at tourism by the numbers and how it has grown in Jammu and Kashmir and how the domestic tourist has visited. So we had over 7.85 crores total tourists 2023-25 combined, up from 4.76 crores in 2016-18. So this place is so much visited. 23 to 25, we had 7.85 crores. Though the graph here shows that it is slightly lower, but you can 2024 they had a lot of tourists. 10.78 lakh people employed in tourism across Jammu and Kashmir. It's a 2025 figure. So you can see how many people are involved in tourism, and actually Jammu and Kashmir thrives on tourism totally. Then they had 65,452 foreign tourist arrivals in the record year 2024. And we need to promote this place more as Indians, that this is a lovely place to come to, this is a safe place to come to, and we as Indians, we need to go and visit this place. I seriously think like that. Look at section 5. We are talking about craft, gold, and green. And this is where you have this beautiful saffron flower, which I showed you about that the soil that is only endemic to this place and nowhere else. So your saffron will grow the best in this soil. Saffron, Kashmir's most precious thread, is the third largest saffron producer in the world. That is Kashmir. It is GI tagged. Kashmir saffron protected since 2020, guaranteeing originality. And October to November, the brief just harvest window each year. So this is the time when there's a lot of harvesting. And Pampor is, like I showed you, that is there is the place where this or the entire the saffron is being harvested, and it's there is a huge the place out there where the saffron is grown there. Each flower yields just three fragile crimson stigmas, hand picked at dawn during a narrow October harvest window. Hand picked at dawn. So, can you believe how hard these people work to give us saffron? And Kashmir actually holds the third largest saffron position in the world. It takes roughly 150,000 flowers to produce a single kilogram of dried saffron. And so they have this huge, you can see those huge the fields of saffron where they are growing this for, and it is very, very costly. Celebrated every November at Pampor's Saffron Festival. So if you plan to go to Kashmir around this time, you can also visit the Pampor's Saffron Festival with fields turning lilac purple overnight. So you can think of going there. It's a GI tag. Now let's come to Pashmina, papier mâché, and more. So Pashmina shawls, I had already told you about a little bit about papier mâché, but let me tell you about handspun from the undercoat of Changthangi goats. Undercoat of it is handspun. These this the undercoat, the coat of the Changthangi goats are used. Reared at 14,000 feet, these goats are reared at 14,000 feet, and the genuine pashmina carries a GI tag and can take weeks of hand weaving per shawl. So each shawl takes meticulous artistry from these people who put in their heart and souls to you that exquisite shawl, which is worth is actually invaluable. You can't put a value on these things. Then there is something called kani weaving, and I will show you a picture of how kani weaving is done. It's an intricate technique using small wooden kani sticks instead of a shuttle to weave elaborate patterns. A single shawl can take months to complete. So this is the pashmina shawl. And when we were talking about walnut wood carving, in the same picture, you would see Kashmir's walnut trees supply wood so fine grained that carved furniture and jewelry boxes are prized as heirloom pieces worldwide. So there you can see that they are doing this meticulous. So you can see that the craftsmen in Jammu and Kashmir have put in their heart and souls for every craft that they bring for you. So here you can see that this person, he's doing a bit of carpentry on this wood. So we were talking about weaving, and these carvings are done from walnut. This is kani weaving. So you can see there is no shuttle. This weaving of that shawl that you see, this beautiful shawl, is actually done by using small wooden sticks. Instead of a shuttle to weave elaborate patterns, a single shawl can take months to complete. So, if we are going to bargain while buying the Kani shawl, I don't think we should. If we know the history of how a weaver does the work on this, then I think we will give the price that they are saying. I'm sure it must be costing quite a bit. Then the papier mâché, like I was telling you about papier mâché, this is how they use paper to create these beautiful boxes. And of course, I will never be able to create. I know I will. It'll take me some time to create a box like this. But if I can, I will surely share it with you. Right now, I'm making small bowls. I'm making beautiful vases. I'm making all those things, but I haven't gone to this position. This is exquisite craftsmanship, and it will last a lifetime. All my other boxes are still there, and it is the shine is still out there. Now about apples. When we talk about Kashmir's everyday gold, these are the apples that you see of Kashmir. They actually yield 75% of India's apple production. The rest of India, we give only 25. They give 75 of India's total apple production, and they all come from Jammu and Kashmir. So I'm sure when we go bargaining and we say, no, no, we will not give this much. But when we speak about the kind of uh, hard work they put in to give us those apples, I think we should be more considerate when we are paying the vendor who is selling it, but they've bought it from Kashmir. And 7 lakh families across the valley depend directly on horticulture for their livelihood. And Shopian's Apple Blossom Festival again turns entire hillsides pale pink each spring. So between March to April, that is the springtime when you can think of going and seeing that flower, the beautiful garden near the Dal Lake. That is one, and the other thing you can do is go to see the Apple Blossom Festival. What are the business opportunities? Why investors, entrepreneurs, and builders are looking north? Why 2026 is the moment to invest in Jammu and Kashmir? You have direct central administration since 2019 reorganization, simplified land laws, and faster online approvals have made it markedly easier to start and register a business. So you can think of connecting with Kashmir government to start your business there if you want to. Industrial Development Scheme 2021 incentives worth 28,400 crore announced to attract new industry with fresh industrial estates opening across both regions. And new startup policy 24-27 offers seed funding a 250 crore venture capital fund with 25 crore already infused by government. And there's a booming tourism demand. Record visitor numbers are thriving. Fresh demand for hotels, homestays, cafes, and experience-led travel businesses across the Union territory. I am just telling you about what business is happening, but if you go into their portal and if you can go into their government portal and find out how you can think of investing in Jammu and Kashmir, or how you can think of doing business with them, then I think you should go into their portal and do it. And 6 sectors to watch out where the opportunity is available: tourism and hospitality, handicrafts and agro exports, food processing, information technology, renewable energy, real estate, and infrastructure. So you can think of these, you can look out for these particular sectors. And industry and enterprise rising. Of course, we have 7.10 lakh MSMEs active in Jammu and Kashmir right now. We have 1,46,317 new jobs created in 2023. See, we don't know these things, and there are so many different things happening in Jammu and Kashmir. I would again like to thank Shitesh ji for giving me this opportunity to do a research on this, because this is like an eye opener for me. And there is again so much more to know about Jammu and Kashmir, so much more. and 2031 industrial units launched in the last 5 years, worth 10,516 crore in investment. So this is how it's happening. Let me bring you some more pictures of this place. Let me entice you more. Let me be the person, the spokesperson for Jammu and Kashmir, because I truly love this place. I love each and every uh, picture that is coming in front of me through the internet when I see these pictures. And when I would like to end by saying that when we look at Kashmiri people, we get to see their exotic dresses, the way they dress up, their ornaments, their dresses. I did not bring much of that, but I when I look at them, I only see a royal thing happening. Even when you see the person on the right, he probably is someone who works somewhere. He's got dirty pants, but again, he looks royal with his with the kind of woven kurta that he's wearing. And the lady on the left is again looking exotic with her velvet kind of a dress that she's wearing with exquisite embroidery in it, and her headgear, and the dupatta that she's wearing, and the shoes, everything intact. She's bringing in a lovely piece, and I'm sure they are saying, come to Jammu and Kashmir, see us, enjoy us, and live the place that we have spread out in front of you. So again, the syncretic existence of Jammu and Kashmir that I would like to show you, the temple, um, and the mosque, both of them together, they have lived like this for years and years. There are people who try to put in a different picture of this place, but I think they are a happy people, and they bring in what we call unity in diversity. So I'd like to thank you for spending, I think, more than 1 hour. I have overshot the time, but I would like to say thank you very much once again, JCI Triprior, for giving me this opportunity to present Jammu and Kashmir before you. And like I always keep saying, I'm very passionate about presenting any place, because every time Shitesh ji tells me do this, I feel that this actually becomes a part of my research work, part of my study, and I love to study and I love to present it to you. If you have any questions, I will surely be able to answer. But if I can't, then please forgive me, because then I'll have to go back to more of my studies. And I'd like to hand over to Shitesh ji once again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that wonderful session. The session now opens for feedbacks. Can I invite JC Andreas, who is joining from Germany, for a feedback?
Wow.
Yeah. Hello from Germany. So JCI Augsburg, Bavaria, Germany. So it was quite intriguing and wonderful pictures I've seen. So I have to say I have worked in the past also together with a lot of people from India, but mostly from southern India. And I know that Jammu and Kashmir is obviously in the northwest of India. And so it's I always say India is one nation, but not one country. Yeah. So, and this was very much a proof, and so it also has shown the connection which Jammu and Kashmir also brings between the different cultures. Yeah. So it was always a crossroads, and I think it was an excellent showcase from your end to show the rich history of this part of India.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining, and your words mean a lot to us. Tinaji, before we close, can we have a word from you?
Um, yes, I would really like to thank JCI Triprayer for always bringing such wonderful sessions for people, because every time other groups present, other people present as well, I get to learn a lot. And I think we should continue with these kind of learnings. We should continue with these kind of presentations, because this helps us to have a bigger view of our country. And Kshitij ji started the entire session by saying a very happy Independence Day. Yes, we need to be proud of this vibrant country. It has given us so much, and it is time that we give back in this manner that Kshitij ji does, uh, by bringing together people to learn more about our country. Because was not for Shitesh ji telling me to do about Jammu and Kashmir, I would not have known so much about Jammu and Kashmir. I would not have done so much research because I have not visited that place. And I have known so much. Thank you, Shitesh ji, because this process, this entire this event that you have every time, we are actually celebrating India by these different presentations that you help us to bring forth to everybody. So thank you very much from the core of my heart. I'm always grateful to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I would like to give a feedback from my end. First of all, it's great to have speaker who just take uh, wants to take a session, even though uh, she's not from the state or from not visited that state, but the passion with which you're taking the session, that has blown my mind away. So the research, the back work that we have done is absolutely stunning. The session got postponed two times. I felt that you would be feeling little disheartened, but despite all the challenges, the electricity not being there, the tempo of the session, the knowledge that has been shared, that has been something that I should thank you for, ma'am. Thank you so much for your time. It means a lot. And keep it up. The research
Shitesh,
work has been superb.
Shitesh ji, yes, I just wanted to say one thing. In the very beginning, I apologize because I was getting very nervous because there was no electricity, and and my battery was showing it was less than 50%, and it had gone into some mode, and I was getting very nervous. So in the beginning, I was very shaky. I'm sorry about that. I was very, very shaky, very nervous.
But
Thank you
this
so
is the
much.
advantage. But this is the advantage, Andreas, here to be with JCI. Get out of your comfort zone and train again. So I'm since 2004, 2005 with JCI Germany or Augsburg, Bavaria. So I'm also senator, and I can tell you that my first speeches I have done, they have not been very good at all. Yeah. So when we had the World Congress in Leipzig, for instance, I learned to speak in front of 700 people, spontaneous in English. So because we had such a good session, yeah, and suddenly you had to do a better presentation of the speaker. So this was not scheduled at all. But this is also JCI, and which gives you a lot of opportunities. And as I said, India is one nation. And by the way, Happy Independence Day, your 80th celebration day you had very recently. And but the point is really, yeah, your many countries, yeah. So yes, so we call it subcontinent in Germany when you go to school and how we learn it. And actually, and it's always funny to see that people say, "Yeah, but it's India." But yes, I said, yeah, it might be. But if you go to the southwest or to the southeast, very, very ancient cultures. Yeah, in the north, totally different languages. Yeah, so this is why people speak English. Yeah, because if you have a person from Tamil, for instance, yeah, they speak Tamil, and from northern, from the Punjab, they speak, as you mentioned, perhaps Urdu. So where's the common? We in Germany, we have one language and not 23, like you have in India. Yeah, you have 23 official language. We have one. Yeah. So and we have a dialect, but if you meet the right person with the right dialect, you don't understand anything, even if you speak German. Yeah. So that's the biggest difference. And this is, I really, yeah, I like to see this. And yeah, it's unfortunately I couldn't make it to India by now, but perhaps one day, perhaps the next year World Congress is in Japan, and the year after, I think I have heard some rumors that perhaps India will come into this. Well, let's see. So it's amazing. So and also to the younger JCI. So really try your best, work hard on this, and get out of your comfort zone. Yeah. So I'm now a mentor, so I'm too old for active day-to-day work. So I'm allowed to mentor some of our chapter members because at least in Germany, as a senator, you don't do any active things anymore if you're beyond the age. Yeah. So you're just there, and if they ask you, that's fine. And you try to open doors on an international level. This is our job as JCI senators in Germany. So
Thank you so much for those words. And hopefully, fingers crossed, 2028, let the World Congress be in India. We are towards the end of the series. So we have our capital and Kerala left. So I would request Andreas to join for the upcoming sessions also. Thank you so much for your feedback. You know India very well. Thank you so much for joining. It means a lot. Going to vote of thanks, I invite JC Shiji Manoj for the vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Every edition of India Incredible, the story of real India, broadens our understanding of our nation's remarkable diversity and today's journey through Jammu and Kashmir. One soul, endless depth has been both enlightening and inspiring. On behalf of JCA Triprayar, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to JCA Tinet Adfa Masood for sharing your knowledge, passion, and inspiring insight into the culture, heritage, natural beauty, and enduring spirit of Jammu and Kashmir. Ma'am, your engaging presentation and wealth of experience have made today's session both meaningful and memorable. Thank you for your valuable time and guidance. My sincere appreciation goes to our President, JCA, CSC Shashidharan, whose vision continues to make India incredible, the story of real India, a platform that celebrates the unity and diversity of our nation. I also extend my heartfelt thanks to our Secretary, JCHEF Anjali Hari, Treasurer JC Srijit Chandran, Vice President, Training JFM Kunnat Manoj, Program Director, and every member of the organizing team whose dedication, teamwork made today's program a success. Finally, my sincere gratitude to every participant. Your curiosity and active participation are what make every session meaningful. Thank you all.
Thank you, JC Shiji. Jammu and Kashmir reminds us that the true beauty of India is found not only in its mountains, lakes, and valleys, but in the resilience, harmony, and hope of its people. May we continue to celebrate our diversity, strengthen our unity, and lead with compassion, understanding, and purpose. India incredible, know India, feel India, lead India. Thank you. Jai Hind. Thank you all. Thank you, Tinatji. Good night.
Thank you, Shiteji. Good night. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.